Is there anything you can do when your speech goes out the window? When everything that you've learned and practiced just goes out the window? Anything you can do to prevent that? My name is Michael Williams, and today we're going to talk about some action steps, some things that you can actually do to prime your brain for smooth speech. To prime the brain for smooth speech. I'm just going to give you some things, but let's talk about how what you're doing is going to affect your brain so that you understand it. In the previous video, we talked about your sympathetic nervous system, which is part of the autonomic nervous system, which manages things that are unconscious, things that you do automatically. Now we're going to talk about that part of your brain or your nervous system. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is the part of your brain that takes control, that helps you to rest, to relax, and to digest. They say rest and digest. So this is where you start coming back to normal, hopefully. Your heart rate starts to go down. You feel more relaxed. You are sending more blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain. So now you're able to think more clearly and therefore speak more smoothly. So what are some things that you can do on a daily basis that will continuously and continually activate your parasympathetic nervous system? So let's jump into a few things. Number one, believe it or not, it is, I'll just write this over here. Number one, it's what we call deep breathing. Deep breathing. Okay? Deep breathing. One of the things that you can do that will help you improve your speech, but also will help you relax. Okay? So deep breathing will help you to relax, and we have something called the 777, and there's variations of this. But if you practice deep breathing on a daily basis, and we have this as a part of our daily routine, and you can do it in the morning time, in the afternoon, in the evening, you can do it 3 times, 5 times, 7 times. I recommend 5 to 7 times at least. You can do it by the amount of time. You can say, I'm going to take out 2 minutes and do 7 7/7s and just set an alarm. But practicing this continuously activates and continually activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So you just start feeling more relaxed in general. Okay, so this is very important. What's the next one? Well, the next one is what we call intentional pausing. Okay, now, what are you saying, Michael, what do you mean by intentional pausing? Pausing what, the TV? Well, yes, that might be a part of it. But when you're speaking, start to train yourself to pause a bit more. Not pause to the point where your speech becomes choppy, where you're pausing after every word, right? But pause more. Sometimes people just go too fast. They speak too fast. When you pause, this allows you or gives you what we call cognitive breathing space. When you pause, you slow everything down. You have an opportunity in that pause to take in a deep breath or breath. It also gives you an opportunity to think more clearly. So pausing is very, very important while you're speaking. So what you want to do is in all of your conversations, talking about no pressure, family, friends, whenever, pause a little more. Take a breath. Think a bit more. Now, where else and how else can you pause? Well, you can start pausing in your daily life in general. I tell my clients, slow everything down in your life, not just your speech. So if you're going 100 miles an hour all day, you're moving, you got lots of stuff to do, you're very busy, it's going to be hard to slow your speech down. That one aspect of your life, you slow it down, that's going to be very, very difficult. So something called the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. And I'm not going to go into it, but I will say this about it. You want to find the couple of things each day, each hour, right, that are going to have the greatest impact. The 1 or 2 things that will give you 80% of your results, that has the highest priority in that day. And you want to start going through your life and cutting stuff out. You don't have to do everything. Trust me, there's lots of stuff that you can cut out. There's sometimes 80% of the things we do are only giving us 20% of the results. We want to turn that around, and we want to make sure that we're focusing on the 20% of the things that's going to give us 80% of the results, right? So you're going to get more output. You're going to produce more by doing less. So when you start to say no to things, you start to cut things out and reduce things and slow everything down, you start to become a more relaxed person, and you'll find that it's easier to slow your speech down, because it's a mindset, right? It's a belief that I have to, what about, and it's not, yeah, you can still think very quickly and sharply and all that stuff. It doesn't mean you slow your thoughts down where you're slow, like, what? No. You can still think quickly, but you just slow everything else down. And you communicate and you articulate what you'd like to do. And you're more choicey in terms of what you want to do. So slow everything down, pause everything. So we're talking about intentionally pausing in your speech as well as your entire life. Now the third thing is what we are going to call self-talk affirmations. So remember, we're talking about what you can do on a daily basis to prime your brain for smooth speech. So in our next video, we'll talk about what to do when you're in a speaking situation and you start to freeze up, you start to get stuck, things start to go out the window. We'll talk about that. But there are some things that you need to do, that you need to practice on a daily basis, right? Hour by hour, every conversation. So self-talk and affirmations are good for you because it helps you to start to see yourself and to think about yourself and think about your speech and speaking situations in a completely different way, in a more constructive, positive way. So it's literally priming your brain. And I gave this example in a workshop. When I was really, really young, we used to go to Maryland and stay at my grandparents' house, and they had those old pumps from a well. And you had to be sure that you filled up a bucket of water so that the next day when you came out to get more water for whatever, you had water to prime the pump. So we actually had to pour water into the pump while pumping it to get the water out. If you forgot, then you're in trouble. You had to go someplace to get some water because it's not coming out. So when we talk about priming your brain for smooth speech, we're talking about kind of doing some things that prepares your brain to get it ready to flow. Like that water flows out of that pump. It flowed out of the pump, but we had to do something to get it to flow. So these things that I'm telling you now are the things that you need to get your speech to flow, not just in no to low pressure speaking situations, but especially in those mid to higher ones where you need it to flow, you want it to flow. Well, you're priming your brain to do that now. So self-talk and affirmations, saying things to yourself like, I'm always relaxed, I can take my time, I don't have to rush, it doesn't matter who's going to be there, I'm going to be able to say what I want to say the way that I want to say it. So that's kind of more self-talk, but you can also kind of blend that and mix that with affirmations. So you do this on a daily basis all throughout your day, and that is going to help you prime your brain to speak smoother, to slow your speech down, to have more control. Now, let's talk about some other things that you can do to help with your speech. And we'll mention this here, but we'll talk a little bit more about it in the next video. One is something I call the law of control. And the law of control says that the more control you feel like you have, or that you do have, over different parts, different areas of your life, the more relaxed you feel, the calmer you feel, the more confident you feel. When you have control, you also tend to have more options. And when you look for and you seek out more options, you feel like you have more control. Okay? If you feel like you have no options, there's just one, you have to do this like this right now, this way, then you feel like you don't have any control, and then you start to feel more anxious and nervous, less confident, and you'll probably not speak as well. So the law of control says, if I can have more control over the different areas of my life, like my speech, then I'll feel more confident. I'll feel calmer. So the question is, how can you get more control? Well, we've talked about a bunch of things, but breathing, making sure you have air in your system. In fact, I have a series called PIES. Pause, inhale, exhale, speak slowly. Right? So look for that series on our YouTube channel. But you can have control through breathing, through affirmations and so forth, by slowing down your speech, by speaking proactively. That's why we call it proactive speech system, right? So when you do this, you'll have more control. But also when you do these three things right here, create, initiate, facilitate. The more you go out and you create conversations, you feel more in control because you've created it, right? You've created it. So you're going to feel more in control than you would if you just react to it. So create more speaking situations for you to use your new speaking style, and so that you feel more in control. Second, initiate. Initiate conversations. Sometimes, for example, I'll just give you a small example. You go out and you know you need to introduce yourself. Initiate the conversation. Go up to someone and say, hey, nice to meet you. I haven't seen you here before. It's great. I think I've seen you here before. My name is Michael. What's your name? Right? So I created a situation, right? And I initiated conversation, and I initiated introducing myself. So I feel more in control, feel more confident. And then facilitate. So what you want to do, and I kind of mean this literally, but the more you are in control, the more confident you feel. So therefore, if you can put yourself in a position where you're teaching, or you're training, or you're instructing, or you're coaching, you're going to feel more confident. So try to go out and create, initiate, and facilitate speaking situations at your job. If you can do a training, if you can mentor someone, do that. That's your area of expertise. You're in control of it. You're in control of what you say, when, and how you say it. And so therefore, you're going to probably speak smoother. You're going to feel more confident. So facilitate. Get out there and facilitate. Also, we mean it in terms of facilitating, like getting out there and making situations happen and go in a way that's going to benefit you. So you're kind of facilitating it. Right? You're getting and you're saying, okay, here's how we need to do this. Here's what's going to happen. Here are the things that we want to do. So you're kind of making it happen. You're being proactive. So the more proactive you are, the more confident you're going to feel. So keep that in mind. Now, as you start thinking about, because I've talked to people and they have upcoming presentations, and we'll get into this in the next video a little bit more, but we'll talk about if you have interviews coming up, presentations, important meetings, then what you want to do is every time you think about that, because now you're priming your brain for smooth speech, whenever you think about that event, prepare for it. When you think about it, prepare for it. What do most people do, or what do some people do? When they think about it, they worry about it, or they ruminate about what happened the last time. But when you think about it, you're going to prepare for it. You're going to visualize yourself doing it well. You're going to practice doing it well. You're going to use our ultimate presentation system, structure, question, answer, category, number, to prepare for it, right? So every time you think about it, you prepare for it. You're creating a new pattern of thought, right? You're firing and wiring this pattern, these actions of preparing for it rather than worrying. Very, very important. So Vic and Rick, is this a tool? When I ask yourself, okay, is what I'm going to say in this meeting or this presentation going to be valuable? It's going to be valuable to the people who are listening. Is it going to be relevant to the people who are listening? Will they be like, yes, this is exactly what we want to hear. This is exactly, these are answering our exact questions. So it's relevant, it's valuable. Then the eyes impact, am I holding their attention? So think about how you're speaking. Am I speaking monotone? Am I speaking too slow? Am I speaking too fast? Right, am I holding their attention? Am I modulating my voice? And then the C, two parts of it, style and structure. With style, we're talking about, are you articulating, right? So that people can understand what you're saying. Doesn't matter if you have an accent, but are you articulating or enunciating? Is your volume too high or too low? Is your speed, are you speaking too fast? So your whole speaking style, obviously this relates to I, but it's very important because we're talking about clarity. The C stands for clarity. And if you're mumbling or you're speaking too fast or you're cutting your words off, people won't be able to understand you, so you won't be clear. You may know exactly what you're talking about. You may be an expert, but if it's not clear because of your speaking style, people won't get the message. So you have to be clear stylistically. Structurally, have you laid it out in a logical way? So we use question, answer, category, number, when we can, to lay out things clearly. It also helps you, it takes the cognitive load off if you know, I'm going to talk about 3 things, and that's it, or 4 things, or 5 things. I'm going to answer these questions. And it takes the cognitive load off you because you have a framework now to pour your information into. It's going to be clear for you and clear for your audience, okay? So keep that in mind. It gives you more control, you feel more confident, and it's priming your brain so that when you actually do get into a medium to high pressure speaking situation, you're feeling more relaxed, you're feeling more in control because you've been creating kind of mini speaking situations every day, all throughout the week, conversations. You're leading things, you're doing things, you're speaking up, you're making phone calls. You've been doing it. So you've primed your brain now to be able to handle and speak well in high pressure speaking situations. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, my name is Michael Williams. We have one more part to this series coming up, and that's going to answer, okay, what do you do when you're in a speaking situation and things start to go out the window? What can you do right there? All right, we'll see you in the next video.